just it was just kind of long since they were all indoors. But I'm glad to be with you here today and excited to learn practice English with you. To start, we'll do a speaking prompt. I'm coming over here to pull it up for us. I can't remember if I've done this one with you guys before. I may have, but I'm interested in talking about it again. I'd like to give you guys a chance to practice speaking English, not just, reading our articles or doing vocabulary. So it's just about the seasons, which I know in Myanmar, you guys have some different seasons than we have in the US. We must have talked about this at some point. I just don't think this time around, because I learned some about your guys' seasons. Because in the US, we have 4 seasons, and it's like spring, summer, fall or autumn, and winter. But we don't really have a rainy season or a dry season per se. Whereas I think you guys maybe do. You'll have to tell me. Anyways, here's the speaking prompt. What's your favorite weather or time of year? Why do you like it? Do you have any specific activities you do during that time? So I think that I really love, for the American seasons anyways, where I live, I really, really like it when fall comes around, which is sort of this time of the year. Since I live sort of, middle southern part of the US, our weather starts to get cooler, usually by October now. But for some reason this year, which sometimes this happens, it hasn't gotten cold. It's been like, well, you guys are in Celsius. It's been very warm. It's been like summer weather pretty much the whole time. And so I'm waiting for it to get cold and crisp. I really like fall. And one of the reasons I really like fall is like the leaves will change all their colors. And so they'll be really bright, like red and orange and yellow leaves all over the trees. There's a ton of trees where I live. It's like just the woods everywhere. And so it's really, really pretty in the fall because it's just like this beautiful splash and array of color just everywhere. So I like to ride my bike and go hiking through all the leaves. It's really wonderful. It's just like a cozy time. So that's my favorite time of the year and the reason why. Is there anyone who'd like to share? You're welcome to just unmute, or you're also welcome to put up your little hand emoji. Is there anyone who'd like to share what's your favorite time of the year or seasons and why? May Thadarkeen or Ken, would you like to share?
Yeah, hello, I'm Nida. Yeah, we have 3 seasons in Myanmar, like summer, rainy season, and winter. My favorite is winter because it's cold and dry. In summer, because our country is situated in the tropical region, because it's so hot, so I really don't enjoy that season. And I like winter because it's very cold and it's dry and it's more convenient. I have so many activities in winter to do, like cycling, walking around the world, and so many others. There's another activity like swimming. It's just weird, but I like swimming in winter. That's all. Thank teacher.
Are you like freezing cold when you go swimming in the winter?
Not too cold. It's getting warm in the afternoon because I live in the tropical region of Myanmar.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, that's fun. Here in the winter, it gets really cold and it's like ice and snow everywhere. But I really like to go swimming too. But we have a bunch of like indoor pools that like people build. And so then you're able to like still go swimming in the winter, because it would be like swimming in ice and freezingness if we went swimming in the winter here. That's really cool. Thank you for sharing. Anyone else like to share?
Yes.
Yeah. Go ahead.
All right. Is my favorite?
Oh no. Where'd he go? I'm sorry. Well, maybe he'll come back. Is there anyone else that like to share in the meantime? What's your favorite time of year? Your favorite season? All right. If no one wants to share, that's fine. I always like to give you the opportunity if you want to. We'll go ahead and get started on our article then. I've been trying to find some new and different articles and kind of switch some things up for you guys. So I found this one today. I thought it was somewhat interesting. I haven't really dug very deep into this website, but it does look like it has some interesting resources. So it might be interesting for you guys to look further at. I don't know. I can't really say whether I really like it or not because I haven't looked too close at it. Also, I don't know why it keeps doing that. There are all sorts of articles on this page here. But I decided to do this one, the frequent travelers one. Do you guys get to travel much, or right now are you not able to travel very much?
I'm broke, teacher.
Yeah. It's funny. I understand that feeling. Well, this article is about traveling, so maybe some of us won't relate, but that's okay. We can still learn, hopefully, some interesting language. And so it's just like an academic article about some researchers who talked about people who travel all the time, which is definitely not me. But I do know people who like travel for a living, and that's what they do for their job, and they're just always traveling. So, anyways, when I was kind of glancing through this article, it looks like there would be some interesting vocabulary that maybe we could talk about. And so I'll go ahead and read through it like normal, and then we'll go paragraph by paragraph and talk about hopefully some interesting vocabulary. All right, it's just titled Frequent Travelers. It looks like it was published in maybe a magazine or something, The Economist. Okay, it says, researchers at the University of Surrey in Britain and Linus University in Sweden have published a new study highlighting what they call a darker side of hypermobility. The hypermobile, largely, but not exclusively, business travelers have won a certain, is that cachet? Catch it? It must be cachet. I don't know that I know that word. In contemporary society, with the worldliness they seem to acquire from their travels and the envy-inducing social media posts they leave in their wake. But the researchers warn, whilst aspects of glamorization in regard to mobility are omnipresent in our lives, there exists an ominous silence with regard to its darker side. The study, which synthesizes existing research on the effects of frequent travel, finds three types of consequence: physiological, psychological, emotional, and social. The physiological ones are the most obvious. Jet lag is the affliction travelers know best, although they may not anticipate some of its direr, if rarer, potential effects, like speeding aging or increasing the risk of heart attack and stroke. Then there's the danger of deep vein thrombosis, exposure to germs and radiation. People who fly more than 85,000 miles a year, say New York to Seattle and back every 3 weeks, or New York to Tokyo and back 7 times, exceed the regulatory limit for exposure to radiation. And finally, of course, business travelers tend to get less exercise and eat less healthily than people who stay in place. The psychological and emotional toll of business travel is more abstract, but just as real. I don't love how this website keeps doing that. Frequent flyers experience travel disorientation from changing places and time zones so often. They also suffer mounting stress given that time spent traveling will rarely be offset through a reduced workload, and that there may be anxieties associated with work continuing to accumulate, inbox overload, whilst away. Due to the absence from family and friends, hypermobility is frequently an isolating and lonely experience, the authors write. The accumulated impact can be substantial. One study of 10,000 World Bank employees found that the business travelers among them were 3 times as likely to file psychological insurance claims. Finally, there are social effects. Marriages suffer from the time apart, as does children's behavior. What is more, relationships tend to become more unequal as the partner who stays at home is forced to take on more domestic duties. There's a gender disparity here, since most business travelers are men. Friendships also fray, as business travelers often sacrifice local collective activities and instead got it. Let me reread, there is a typo. Friendships also fray, as business travelers often sacrifice local collective activities, instead prioritize, it should be prioritized, which would be IZE, their immediate families when returning from trips. Of course, these impacts are mitigated by the fact that they fall disproportionately on a segment of the population that is already doing rather well. The mobile elite tend to have higher incomes and access to better health care than the population at large. According to the study, in Sweden, 3% of the population accounts for a quarter of international travel. In France, 5% covers half of the population's total distance traveled. So these may be the problems of the 1% or the 3% or the 5%, but they are real enough regardless. By all means, feel jealous of acquaintances, Instagram photos of exotic meals and faraway attractions, but harbor a small amount of concern for them as well. All right, we'll come up here and we'll look at our first paragraph right here. Researchers at the University of Surrey in Britain and Linus University in Sweden have published a new study highlighting what they call a darker side of hypermobility. The hypermobile, largely but not exclusively business travelers, have won a certain, I think it's cachet, in temporary society. With the worldliness they seem to acquire from their travels and envy-inducing social media posts they leave in their wake. But the researchers warn, whilst aspects of glamorization in regard to mobility are omnipresent in our lives, there exists an ominous silence with regard to its darker side. All right, do you have any questions about vocabulary, how words can be used, their meanings, idea or content questions, any questions? Feel free to unmute. You can put up your hand emoji, whatever you're comfortable with.
Yes, teacher.
Yes.
I want to know the word, the envy inducing.
To be envious or to have envy is to be like jealous, to want what someone else has. And so inducing means that it like causes that thing to happen. It makes that thing happen. You induce, whatever it is you're making happen. And so seeing all these, social media posts, all these pictures and hearing these stories might make you want to be a world traveler, but maybe there's like some negative consequences as well. So it's just saying that it induces jealousy or envy, or it makes you jealous of them.
What is hypermobility?
Yeah.
What is hypermobility?
So being mobile means that you're able to travel or move around, you know, like essentially travel. And so hyper, when it's attached as a prefix to a word, means like a lot or overly abundant, like you do it a lot. And so they travel a lot, like hypermobile. You're able to travel like all the time. I'm trying to think of another example using the prefix like hyper. Like hyperfixation, when like you're fixated on something and you can't stop. You're just like you're fixated a lot on this one thing. When you add hyper as a prefix, it means like it's lots. It's just that thing that you're doing all the time.
Thank you, teacher.
I looked up, it is cachet is how you pronounce this word, C-H-E-T. And it says it's a distinguishing mark or seal. It's the state of being like respected or admired, like prestige. Any other questions?
Omnipresent.
Yes. That means it's everywhere. It's all over the place. Omni means like, oh, let me look it up really quick. Present is like it's here, like it's around you. Because present can also mean like happening right now, but it can also mean like that it's right here, it's in front of you. Name. And omni, yeah, means all. So it's like all present. It's all around you. I have never, I don't think, it's not very common anyways, to hear the word omnipresent used. The only context that I personally in the US and in my life have heard omnipresent is when talking about God, like God is everywhere. He's all around us, like he can be in our lives. Typically, I don't hear people just using the word omnipresent. I know a lot of my friends don't even know what that word means. So it's a pretty rare word.
Teacher,
Mhm.
you know
Yeah.
what is disorientation?
Yeah. Disorientation means like like you're disoriented. To be oriented means like the world makes sense and everything's as it should be and things are going really well. And then dis means not, the prefix dis. So it means it's not oriented. It's not making sense. It's not the normal. It's not how things normally go. And so you feel sort of like confused or that things aren't as they should be. So you're disoriented.
Oh, thank you, teacher.
Any other questions from this first paragraph?
Yes. Glamorization.
Yeah, glamorization. Glamour is like making things look really beautiful. And so to glamorize something is to like make things look really beautiful and perfect and just gorgeous and pristine, that there's nothing bad about it. And so in this sense, it's saying that it's painting this picture of perfection to be able to travel everywhere. But this article is saying there are some negative consequences to traveling. It's not just this glamorized picture of perfect happiness, beauty. Does that make sense? Yeah. Andy, you had a question. Or was it about glamorization?
I was about to ask the same thing.
Okay. No problem. Anything else?
Teacher, can I ask? Yes. Yeah, you first. Okay.
Yeah, that's fine. Franda Electoral, would you like to ask first?
Teacher,
Yes.
I'm confused to understand this paragraph. So can you take out the main points of this paragraph?
Yeah, thank you for asking. What it's saying is it's talking about frequent travelers. This term hypermobile is this fancy word that they're using to say someone who travels a lot. And so they're saying that people who travel a lot are usually business people who are traveling for their work. And they will post a lot of pictures or write things on their social media that makes it look like traveling all the time is just this wonderful life where you get to see all these things and meet all these people and experience all these adventures, and it's just perfect and wonderful. And so you see those types of things and maybe you're jealous of that. But these authors are saying there is perhaps other negative consequences to traveling all the time. It might not be this picture perfect life that's just wonderful and amazing. There might be some difficulties with traveling all the time too. So this sentence here, there exists an ominous silence with regard to its darker side, is just saying that they're not talking about the difficulties that come with traveling all the time. Good question. Alex, you had a question.
Yes. Sometimes I confuse the wines and white. The usage WHISTN,
Wow.
WHILES.
Thank you for asking that question. So in American English, we would just say while, like WHILE. I assume because it's talking about like researchers in Britain and Sweden, it's probably like a more European thing to say whilst. I could look it up really quick. But yeah, in English, American English, we never say whilst unless you're trying to like sound fancy or something. So I think it must be like a British thing. Yeah, the dictionary says it's British. So if you want to sound very formal and British, say whilst. If you want to sound American, then just say while.
Yes, it's the same, right?
Yes, it is exactly.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Anything else? Good questions, guys. Okay. Very good. I was hoping there'd be some good words. It looks like there are. Okay, we'll do the second paragraph there. The study, because remember these researchers like did this study from these universities. The study, which synthesizes existing research on the effects of frequent travel, finds three types of consequence: physiological, psychological, and emotional, and social. The physiological ones are the most obvious. Jet lag is the affliction travelers know best, although they may not anticipate some of its direr. That just feels like it's not a word. I'm going to have to look that one up. If rarer potential effects like speeding aging or increasing the risk of heart attack and stroke. Then there's the danger of deep vein thrombosis, exposure to germs and radiation. People who fly more than 85,000 miles a year, say New York to Seattle and back every 3 weeks, or New York to Tokyo and back 7 times, exceed the regulatory limit for exposure to radiation. And finally, of course, business travelers tend to get less exercise and eat less healthily than people who stay there, who stay in place. The psychological and emotional toll of business travel is more abstract, but just as real. So any questions in this second paragraph?
Hello.
Yeah.
Anticipate.
Anticipate means to like look forward to or expect something to happen. So in this case, they may not be expecting these more negative consequences to happen.
Synthesize.
Synthesizes. To synthesize means to take like two pieces of information and like bring out the commonalities between them, to like bring together that information into one piece of knowledge. So for example, if we read this article about traveling and then we read a second article about traveling, and we took both of the information we learned, or the information we learned from both of those articles, so that now we better understand world travelers, then that would be synthesizing that information into like our own understanding. It's not a great definition, but it's like taking information from two sources and making understanding it from two different sources. Does that make any sense? I'm going to look it up in a second. There might be a better definition. But diarer, this word here, that's very hard for me to say, diarer. It is a word, and it's just the comparative adjective that it's more dire than, and dire just means that it's like a bad thing that you don't want to happen. The dictionary defines synthesize as like combining a number of things into like a coherent whole. So you're taking information from like different sources and you're understanding it as one piece of information. Someone in the chat asked aging. Aging means to get old, that you age. Time has passed. It's just the verb instead of the noun. What else? Any other questions?
Abstract.
So concrete are things you can see, you can feel, you can touch, you can smell, right? You can understand with your senses. That's concrete. Abstract are like ideas. They're things you can imagine. They're things you can understand in your brain, but not that you can see or touch or feel. And so, like love is an abstract concept. You know it, right? But you can't hold love, like you can't, right? It's just an idea, it's a concept, it's abstract.
Teacher,
Mm-hmm.
what does it mean, deep vein
Thrombosis. Deep vein thrombosis, and I'm not a scientist, this is like a medical term, and I'm not a doctor, but my understanding of it is like you essentially get like a blood clot in your vein, and typically I think it's in your leg, and like travelers, especially on airplanes, will get it, but kind of anywhere where you're sitting for a long time, because you're sitting for so many hours, and if you don't get up and move around, then your body can't like circulate its blood properly, and so then you can get like a blood clot in your vein. That's how I understand it.
Yeah, how about germs?
Say it one more time.
Germs.
Oh, germs. Germs. I'm trying to think how to describe this. Like, you get sick from germs. Like germs are like,
Bacteria.
like, what?
Bacteria.
Yeah, like bacteria. Thank you. Yes, like the molecules that carry diseases. Yes. Anything else?
Teacher, about the potential effects, like speeding aging. I understand what it's trying to say, but is it something that is scientifically proven about speeding aging?
Yeah, great question. I mean, if these are supposed to be I don't know anything about this website or these sources. So I can't say like that they're right, and I don't personally know. But this article is saying that they're researchers, so they're scientists from universities. So you would think that yes, they have done proper research and that it is scientifically proven. But I personally have not checked that that's true. So, but that's a good question. You would imagine that if you're traveling like pretty much every day of your life, that yeah, you'd probably get older like faster, like your body would just kind of wear out a little faster, because that's hard to like travel and time differences and all that stuff. Yeah. So it seems like it would be right, but I can't say for sure.
Teachers, I just to know the jet lags. When we got the, sorry. Oh, yeah. When we got the jet lag, so how to solve this problems? We got the taxi or something like that, right? So how to recover?
From jet lag?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just
People have all sorts. So I've heard a lot of different things. I've gotten to travel some in my life, only overseas a couple of times. Most of it's been within the US. And people have all sorts of different ideas about like what to do for jet lag. And like if you Google it, like lots of stuff will come up. My dad travels for a living, so he's a businessman, and his business is based overseas, and so he travels a lot. And he typically will just try and quickly adjust to the time difference. And so when he's like going overseas and it's like a whole day is different or many hours different, then he like will either like not take a nap in the afternoon, so he'll just go to bed at their time, or he'll take like a short nap so that he can sleep all night their time, like whatever he needs to do to like as soon as possible get on to the other time. And he has found that really helps him. Some people talk about like different foods or like water helps or just different things. I don't know that there's really a cure for jet lag. And some people say like don't take a nap, and some people say you can. I think it just like depends on you and what works for you. When I've experienced jet lag, I do my best to not sleep during the day so that I can like get used to the other time zone. But also sometimes you just fall asleep if it's like the middle of the night for you, you know?
yes, because I never been in the flight. That's why I
Yeah. And sometimes, so like, because this summer I went to Africa, and that was like quite a bit of a time difference from the US.
yeah.
And so like during the day, part of the day was like my nighttime. And so like, you know, I was kind of tired, but also like after that first day, like I slept through the night. And so then I just forced myself to like wake up. And so then there were moments during the day I was tired, but then like you get onto that schedule pretty quickly if you like force yourself to stay on that schedule. And so it wasn't too bad. It was fine. But I'm sure everyone responds differently.
Thank you so much. Yes.
Mhm. Anything else?
Yes, teacher.
Mhm.
I was wondering, is jet lag is the same meaning as sleep deprivation?
Jet lag is the same as what?
Sleep deprivation.
Sleep deprivation. I want to say yes, but not really, because sleep deprivation it just means that you don't have enough sleep, that you didn't get enough sleep. And usually like over a longer period of time, to the point that like you're sleep deprived, like you're having trouble functioning because you haven't gotten enough sleep. And that can apply to any situation, like if you had to stay up too late, or you woke up too early, or you know, whatever. Jet lag is specifically the difficulty your body goes through in changing time when you travel far distances. So technically it's sleep deprivation because you didn't get to like sleep all the way through the night. But jet lag is the specific difficulty of not getting your sleep because the time change is so different. So if I were to go to Myanmar, like, you know, right now, by like, right, for me it's nighttime, for you it's morning. So if I were to arrive there and it's morning, like I would have trouble staying awake all day like you guys are about to do, because I'm about to go to sleep, you know? And so that would be some difficult jet lag to try and like stay awake for 24 hours and then go to sleep. So technically that is sleep deprivation, but jet lag is just a more specific occurrence that has to do with traveling and not getting sleep because of the time zone.
Yeah, I got this text.
Okay. Sometimes I feel like I probably over-explain it. Okay, anything else from this paragraph? All righty. We will keep going here. We'll do this third paragraph here. Frequent flyers experience travel disorientation from changing places and time zones so often. They also suffer mounting stress, given that time spent traveling will rarely be offset through a reduced workload, and that there may be anxieties associated with work continuing to accumulate, e.g. inbox overload, whilst away. Due to the absence from friends and family, family and friends, hypermobility is frequently an isolating and lonely experience, the authors write. The accumulated impact can be substantial. One study of 10,000 World Bank employees found that the business travelers among them were 3 times as likely to file psychological insurance claims. Finally, there are social effects. Marriages suffer from the time apart, as does children's behavior. What is more, relationships tend to become more unequal as the partner who stays at home is forced to take on more domestic duties. There's a gender disparity here since most business travelers are men. Okay, any questions from this one?
Mountain stress.
So you know how like when you have a bunch of stuff to do and it just gets all piled on, like it gets more and more and more and more and more stress to the point where you just feel like you can't take it anymore. That's mounting stress, when it like gets more and more and more and more and more and you can't handle it. Sort of like how you would climb a mountain and you get like higher and higher and higher, or like it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and more difficult.
Offset.
Yes, I'm gonna have to find that one to see the context. Okay, here it is. They also suffer mounting stress. The offset. Okay. So like what it's saying is the time spent traveling will, like the difficulty of spending time doing the traveling will not be offset or will not be reduced, or that difficulty won't be helped by lessening the amount of work you have to do. You still had to do the same amount of work and travel at the same time. And so it's like 2 difficulties. Instead of saying, I have a difficulty of traveling, let me offset that or make it easier by reducing my amount of work. They're saying typically that doesn't happen. So to offset means to like make something easier by changing something else. I might look up a better definition of that. I feel like I learn things when I teach you guys. I feel like I'm learning. A consideration, let me see, like balances. That's a good definition. Like to offset means to balance something so that nothing's too difficult or too easy. Because the reason I wanted to look up a definition too is like people will use like offset and like when when you're like decorating a room, or you're like picking out an outfit, like you want to offset the orange dress, so you're going to put a, you know, I don't know, scarf on or whatever. Like you want to balance the look and make it all look right. Mhm. Anything
Can I?
else?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I ask again? Yeah. So the last sentence,
Yeah.
the most business travelers are men. Yeah. Why can't be women?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not, what would it be, an anthropologist, someone who like studies humanity and like systems in the world. Maybe that's not the right word, but I'm not, it's whatever that researcher is. So I don't really know. The American answer that like American culture would give to you is that our like gender roles across American history is like the men do the work and the women stay at home with the children. And so those gender roles have changed a lot in America in recent times, like, you know, the past 100 years or whatever, or 50 years, or I don't know. And so there's a lot more women that work, but there's still sort of that cultural idea in America that like the men provide and the women take care of the children. And so that would be the American answer, is that more men are travelers because more men work, or that's the system that exists. And so men have that privilege of getting those jobs, whereas women might not have those same opportunities. I think there's a lot of, I'm saying it's the American answer because I think there's a lot of politics that goes into that, of why people talk that way, and American politics and like just the things that happen over here sometimes. And so I don't know that it's really true, but that would be your American culture answer.
Yes, me either. I'm just wondering about they do the human right activity all the time, right? But so
They what? Say it
right, yeah,
again.
human rights.
Human rights, yeah.
Yeah. So why can be get?
I think you froze in the middle of talking. Oh no. Oh, I feel bad. He had a good question. Are you there?
Teacher, I think the lights went out.
Oh, okay. When he comes back, I'll have to answer his question. It's interesting the different like issues different countries and cultures deal with. I personally think that oh, okay, you're back, Andy. Are you back? Andy, are you there? Can you hear me?
Mr. Me or Alex?
No, you.
Oh.
You were cut off right at the end. Andy, you said something about always talking about human rights, and then I couldn't hear what you said.
Sure, I don't think that was me. That was Alex.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. I apologize. Well, we'll just move on then. Okay, are there any other questions?
Sure. I've never really heard of. I don't know. There's an insurance for psychological issues. Can you please elaborate on that one?
Mm-hmm. So in Myanmar, do you guys have like health insurance with your guy, like with your work, or is that not how it works over there?
It's the same for.
Okay.
No, we don't have insurance.
Okay.
For health insurance.
Okay, in the US, like your job, depending on what job you get, but most jobs, most professions will give you health insurance, because like healthcare in the US is very, very expensive, like insanely expensive almost no citizen could pay for it. And there's lots of reasons for that. But, and so the way it works is your job helps provide health insurance, and you like pay that health insurance every month, and your job pays some of that health insurance. And what the insurance company does is they'll like pay the bulk of your healthcare costs, the thousands upon thousands of dollars it is to go and to the doctor. And so they'll pay the bulk of it, and then you pay like this smaller amount. I don't know exactly how it all works, but the amount of money they get coming in allows them to pay those other costs. And so psychological insurance claims would just be that they went to the doctor for psychological reasons, for their mental health. So they went to a psychiatrist or, you know, a therapist or something like that. And again, all those things cost a lot of money in the US. And so they're asking their insurance to help pay for it because it's too much money to pay for. Yeah. Yeah. It's an interesting system. Mhm. Anything else? All right, we'll go ahead and do our last paragraph here. It says friendships also fray as business travelers often sacrifice local collective activities and instead prioritize, again, that's a typo, their immediate families when returning from trips. Of course, these impacts are mitigated by the fact that they fall disproportionately on a segment of the population that is already doing rather well. The mobile elite tend to have higher incomes and access to better healthcare than the population at large. According to the study in Sweden, 3% of the population accounts for a quarter of international travel. In France, 5% covers half the population's total distance traveled. So there may be problems of the 1% or the 3% or the 5%, but they are real enough regardless. By all means, feel jealous of acquaintances' Instagram photos of exotic meals and faraway attractions, but harbor a small amount of concern as well. Any questions in this paragraph?
Sorry, I'm
Yes, you're
lagging. Yeah, yeah.
You're
So,
good. That's
yeah,
okay. I felt bad. So you were asking, we moved on to the fourth paragraph, but before we ask your questions there, you were saying something about human rights, but then I didn't hear the rest of what you were saying.
They do more human rights, maybe promote and favor so about the human rights, but they about the men's can do, but the women cannot do like that. Why? A little bit confused, right?
Yeah.
So this how can I say that?
Yeah, no, I understand what you're asking. If I think anyways. So in the US, in America, I don't know what it's like in Myanmar, but in America, in the US, like I said, like historically, the gender roles were men provided and they worked a job, and women stayed at home and they raised the children and they cooked and they cleaned and they took care of the home. So that was like historic America. And then over the years, women sought for like what you're saying, like women rights or human rights, that they too can go and work in a job, and they too, since we like have a voting system for our government, that they should be able to vote, that they should be able to buy land, that they should be able to drive a car, you know, all the things that men can do, that women aren't somehow lesser or unequal to men, right? Because America's all about like equality, you know, and like that everyone's on the same level, right? Like that's very a big part of our culture. And so there's this like push that like historically women were not treated as equals to men, and so they want to be treated as equals, right? I personally think that the US does a really great job of treating women, as equals with human rights. but because of that history and that change across time, there are still people and Americans who think that women still aren't treated as they should be. For example, certain jobs that you get, it can be the same job position, the same expectations and duties, and a man doing that job will be paid more than a woman doing that same exact job. And so there's just some of those things that still happen in the US that people don't like. And so they want women to be treated exactly the same as men.
Yes, I hope the next president will be female.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, things like that.
Yeah.
I personally think that it's probably not as big of a deal than people make it, but I also not an expert, and so I don't know. But that's just the general culture of like, if you
Yeah.
came to America, what are the things you're going to hear? You're going to
Mhm.
hear things like sometimes women aren't treated as equal as men.
Yes. Okay. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you for asking a question. Okay, we had read paragraph 4. So were there any questions in paragraph 4 down here, this area?
Teacher, what is fray?
Yes, fray means to like, so if you think of it this way, like, fabric over time it frays, like it sort of rips apart or it loses its structural integrity. It just means like, like your shirt might get old and it starts to get holes in it or it starts to fall apart. So in the same way, friendships can fray, meaning you kind of lose that closeness or you lose that friendship. You're not as close as friends anymore. It starts to fall apart. It starts to, yeah.
Kind of disappeared.
Yeah. Anything else?
Yeah. Acquaintance. Acquaintance.
It starts with an A. Acquaintances, yes. An acquaintance is someone who's not quite your friend, but you do know them. But you're not a friendship level, but they're not a stranger. They're just an acquaintance. You know them, you talk to them, you're nice to them, but you're not friends, but you're not strangers. It's like the in between.
Yeah. Like social media friend.
Yeah, that would be an acquaintance. Or maybe like, someone you see once in a while. So like some of the people who work in my school building, I only get to see them maybe, every couple of weeks. They're an acquaintance, right? I say hi to them. We talk about the weather. We talk about our students, but I'm not friends with them. I don't really know them.
Yeah, I got it. Thanks, teacher.
Yeah. Anything else?
Mitigated.
Yes, mitigated means like lessened, that it's not as bad. Let me look up like a better definition. I learned that word recently, like in the past couple months, I think, and I think it's a beautiful word. To make less severe or serious or painful, to like reduce the impact, to make it less terrible. Like you can't stop it altogether, but it can make it less. Alrighty. Let's go ahead and we'll stop there. I'll stop sharing my screen. Great questions today, guys. I feel like today I finally found an article that actually had some interesting vocabulary and that was kind of difficult. So that made me happy. I don't know how you guys felt about it, but I felt like you guys had good questions. So thank you. Alrighty, we'll read our scripture.